and welcome to today's Mishna Berurah class. We are going to be discussing today Simanim Tzadi Hey and Tzadi Vav. We're going to be talking about chapters 95 and 96, talking about proper positioning and intention for Tefillah. So the proper way to adjust yourself, we're going to start with talking about how to adjust your feet. So you should have your feet properly positioned. So we're talking about now you are standing up. Excuse me. You are standing up. Okay, so you finished the Berurah's Kriya Shema. You finished the blessings of the Shema. Okay, you are standing up. You've taken your 3 steps back, and now you take your 3 steps forward. Okay, so this is where we are in terms of this discussion. Before this was kind of like the getting yourself sort of mentally ready. This is talking about when you're actually stepping into the game. You're actually lining up. You are, just you can just start playing, the what's it called? The sounds of getting ready to the crowd cheering. You're getting ready to daven. Those type of things. So you're gonna have your feet positioned parallel to each other, immediately parallel. Okay, and so in such a way where they are meant to look like you have one foot like the angels. Okay, because it says by the angels, their feet were just one straight foot. Okay, which means that their legs look like one legs. Okay, so that is how you should feet. Squeeze your feet together. Squeeze your feet and knees and thighs together. Okay, now he doesn't say that, but that's what he's referring to. Now the Ramah says that there are those who say that when you stand up to pray, you shall take 3 steps forward in order to present yourself like you need something to do. Okay, like you have something to do. All right, so that's where the 3 steps back and 3 steps forward thing comes from. So, but even though he says at the end, I wanted you to know that this positioning of your feet comes at the end of that. So, get your feet aligned. The Mishnah says, however, if you don't do that, you still fulfill your obligation of prayer. So if you can't do that for whatever reason, right, bad knees, bad back, all those things could contribute to not being able to have your feet together, need a cane. Now, let's talk about acting or not like acting, but looking like the angels. So since you're speaking before the presence of the Holy One, blessed be He, you have to remove all earthly thoughts from your heart and to act as if you are standing before the King himself, and he is on the wagon, not the wagon, but the chariot. It says Agala here, which is wagon. It is chariot. Okay. So that's the same thing. And now, I'm sorry. Even if you personally are standing on a wagon, not Hashem. We said before that you have to, even when you're sitting on a wagon, so you still need to present yourself as if you were talking to the king. So even if you are sitting in a wagon, you still have to keep your feet together. You also shouldn't lean on things behind you or next to you, and don't tilt and don't lean. And don't spread your feet far apart, and it's to do with the thighs, okay. So that just looks really haughty, right? So you should sit nicely. It's like when you're sitting, okay. Same thing with your standing too. So Ramah says to take some steps forward. So technically, you don't have to take any steps back according to this opinion, says the Mishnah. Okay, but the minhag of the world is to 3 steps back and 3 steps forward. Okay, like it's a dance routine, but not really. Okay, but that's the minhag. So the Darchei Moshe, which is one of the books of the Ramah that he wrote on the tour, that the proper time to stand up, according to Ashkenazi custom, written in the writings of the Maharil, was they said the words Tehilos Lakel Elyon. Okay, so that's when you would stand up, and that's usually marked off in the Siddur. It's marked off sort of the last couple lines of the paragraph. You would stand, and then you can take your 3 steps back. And in an afternoon, the times for standing, the Shaliach Tzibur is, as soon as he would go in front to stand up, people would stand up that whole time. And in the evening, they would stand up right at the beginning of Kaddish. Okay. So and people also at the time would also clear their throat a little bit, like a little type of thing. And they also clear their heads of anything that was distracting. Okay, another thing to do while standing, you have your feet together. You also need to attune the head forward, okay, so that your eyes will be looking towards the floor. Okay, and you should consider the following, like you were standing in the Holy of Holies, which we talked about in the previous section about the angling ourselves to Mizrach, and a Mizrach that faces the Holy of Holies. And with your heart, you should aim your heart to heaven. So your head is going east and your heart is going up. Okay? What does this mean? So the Mishnah Berurah explains, well, we talked about this in the Mishnah Berurah previously. Okay? And you should look in when we talk about it in chapter 90. Okay? So you don't get distracted by things. Okay? And also, the Bach adds, the Rabbi Yoel Sirkis adds the following, that before you begin to pray, you should look at the windows in order to help focus your heart as well. Okay? And there should be windows, which we talked about that as well previously. And eyes to the ground. So those people who lift their heads and lift their eyes and look at the ceiling, the angels laugh at them. Okay? So he brings that statement. And the Prima Godim says, you should not make any type of crazy movements, but if you're by yourself, go crazy. Well, he doesn't do that. He says when you're by yourself, you have permission. And definitely not around other people, and especially to make your voice very loud. Okay, this is actually a longer discussion. The other later poskim write that if you don't turn your eyes downward during the Shemona Esrei, will not see the actual brightness of God's presence at the time of their departing. Okay? However, if you're looking at a Siddur and your eyes are open to read the words, that's not a problem. So if you don't have a Siddur, you should close your eyes. And we also talked about that before as well in Siman Sadi Aleph in the Mishnah Berurah. Okay, so this one is in Sadi Aleph and Seif Katan Vav. The third halacha here, where another thing you should do is place your hands upon your heart. Okay, they should be clasped somehow, which the Ramah adds is they should just be tied to each other, with the right one on top of the left one, and stand like a servant before his master with fear and with awe and with ultimate respect. And do not put your hands on your hips, because that is an unacceptable position. Okay? And we'll learn more about that later on in Siman Side Design 97. Okay, so why do we put on our heart? Because when people came before the king, they would place their hands upon their heart in order to express how contrite they were. Okay, and that's how they would make their requests. But whatever is normal for how people file their requests, which nowadays you just go on your congressman's website and send an email. So I guess that's not a good, it's not a good example. But when you would make public requests, all right, no Karening in your Shemona Esrei, all right, must be respectful. Another work of the RE, that it would take the right arm across the heart on top of the left, and like a big hug. Okay. And some people would also place the thumb into the palm of the hand. Okay, so whatever is appropriate. Lots of different customs on this. Okay, with some trepidation, it's appropriate to shake. We call it shuckling, because we say the verse says Kol Atzmosai Tamarna. My entire structure calls out to you, my bones. Okay. So that's why we do that. So that's some people recommend that. Okay, so we also say, and this is halacha 4, that you should also keep your feet together when reciting kedusha as well, because we also make mention of the fact, Mishna explains, the angels engaging in this type of prayer service. So that, as we say, is why we do our feet together like that. So that is the end of 95, and there was much rejoicing. We shall now move to Siman 96. You need to remove all distractions so that you can concentrate. Okay, so keep those feet together, attune your heart, and now let's talk for a moment about moving distractions. All right, so now when you're praying, don't start touching the tefillin, okay? And also don't hold any books, like any holy books, okay? Sifrei Kodesh, okay? And don't hold a full plate, and don't hold a knife, or money, or bread, because you're going to focus on them and not on the prayer, because you're going to focus on them not falling, and it's going to distract you, and it's going to annul your ability to focus. Okay. However, a lulav during Sukkot, that's okay, because holding it is a mitzvah and is not going to distract you so much. All right. So he's saying don't hold your tefillin or hold any books. Okay. So the Mishnah Berurah adds that the Pri Megadim includes this prohibition to include Shema and Psuki Zimra. So don't get distracted. And as you recall, we said that's why you should always start your learning b'toch halacha psuka. So what's interesting is that there's a lot of times there's these morning kollels where they start you off in the morning and learning really be'iyun into some of these, some of these issues. So really the truth is that if you are learning first thing in the morning, as we learned, you should really try to focus on getting yourself to slow your brain down a little bit. So try that a little bit. So maybe learn that and then try to slow the brain down with something else so that way you can focus for the whole prayer service. One ways you can do that is to focus a lot more on the aspect of the Birchot HaShachar, and especially on the Ma'aseh Karbonot, how you do the sacrificial service. So that's one way to kind of refocus your brain. That's my own assessment. Okay, don't hold the tefillin, all right? So you can't daven and hold your tefillin. You can't daven and hold a plate, all right? Don't hold a plate. This is my plate. Don't hold a plate, all right? It's Stender. But I'm saying don't hold a plate while you're davening, all right? If you did that, you don't have to repeat it, okay? But he knows if you're not going to pay attention during the first 3 blessings, this is bad. And we'll talk more about that later, about not paying attention during the first 3 blessings. Now, a shliach tzibur, someone leading the congregation, can hold the Sefer Torah when he says things like Yikum Purkan, or when he makes the blessing for the Chodesh, okay? And those prayers after the Torah service, that's okay, because he's intending to recite prayers over the learning of Torah itself, okay? So, and you're not holding it in order to keep it from falling on the ground, and that's like a lulav. Can a soldier hold his weapon during prayers in the field? Yes, actually, very good point. That's an excellent thing. I think he's going to get to that here in a second. So let me come back to your question. And you also can hold a holy book and any books, as Mishnah Berurah adds. Okay, so a full plate, because you're focusing on it. Okay, so that you won't drop the plate. And same thing with a knife, that you won't drop the knife on your foot, right? And also, it literally says won't drop the knife on your foot. Okay, and also your money, so they don't spread around. And if they're all tied up, that's still a problem, because you're worried that maybe you're going to lose it. Okay? Only in such a way where you can attach it to yourself where you're not worried that it's going to be lost. And so therefore, you also can't have little children around you during davening, because they'll distract you. Okay? And we say over here specifically referring to your money and your bread, and also add little children, because when they fall, they'll be broken, or they'll hurt you. But every other thing is permitted to hold in your hand, okay? And there are those who say that it's not just these things, but we were just talking about that. Anything that is taken to be held at the time of tefillah, you shouldn't hold it in your hand, okay? So basically, with something like your weapon, you should secure it on your person in a way that doesn't distract you. Okay. And so another question over here, he says also, it doesn't seem to be fair to say that a person, if they're traveling, shouldn't hold on to their tefillin or a Sefer Torah in their hands if they're worried about it being stolen, because that might be permitted. Okay. So, and we said that you can hold a Sefer Torah or a lulav, while praying. Mishna adds that if a book falls on the floor and you can't focus on it, then you can pick it up. Okay, when you finish a blessing. And without that, you shouldn't stop to pick up a Sefer off the floor. And also, you shouldn't start doing the like that, you know. Somebody, they can don't do that type of stuff. Okay. Someone asked me, is new a word? I said, of course, new is a word. New is a Yiddish word. It's 2 letters. There's lots of words that are 2 letters. New is no different. No. And if you started davening with Shemona Esrei and you get distracted and confused by it, you can go grab a siddur even though you started Shemona Esrei, right? You started saying it, and then you're like, I don't remember how to say the special Shemona Esrei for Shabbos Rosh Chodesh like we had this past week. So you can go walk over to go get the siddur. Okay. Last thing we're going to learn today, because we were just flying through Simanim today. It's permitted to hold on to any books that allow you to pray. Okay? Because you're using them for the purpose of prayer. Okay? So he calls it a machzor tefillah. He doesn't call it a siddur. It's really interesting how he describes it in the Hebrew here. And you're not going to be worried about it. Similar to a lulav. Okay, and also because holding onto it is also a mitzvah, and therefore you're not distracted by it. Now, the Ramah adds, says, nonetheless, if you don't have the siddur in your hand when you start praying, you should not start looking around for it to pick it up when you started praying. Okay, unless you're in a very specific place where you know you're going to find it. And then you could take it, even if you haven't moved. Okay? And that way you can use it. But he's talking about where you're not moving yourself. Okay, because that would be going back on the previous statement of Mishna that you were moving around to pick up stuff because it's distracting you. Okay, so let's go into this. So why is it you can't turn behind you? And the Mishna explains because that is distracting from your prayer. And the Taz himself says that this is the same thing too. That a person should be careful when they're praying in a siddur, that they should note the places where they need to pray. Okay? And they shouldn't be looking around for them to figure out, what do I say here and what do I do? That's why all the notes are all added into the siddur themselves nowadays. Okay? And that's what's further written by other works like the Birkat Yosef. That is what many people who do the proper things, they want to say their prayer, or they want to say a prayer where they add something into it. They need to make sure that they do that. Or also, too, when they have a Yom Tov on Motzei Shabbos, you should make note of things that they say special in there, like V'hodienu, for the Havdalah as part of the service. So another thing that we learn about Siddurim is that when you find when you find yourself in the repetition of the Amidah, you should have the siddur open in front of you, so that way your ears can focus on hearing and your eyes can focus on looking. Okay, so ears listening to the shots and eyes following along on the words. All right, we'll learn more about Chazal shots at another time, but for today, it'll suffice. And here we'll learn about doing different things, about belching and yawning during prayers, right? Not to do that type of stuff. I'll have a funny story for you for next time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for learning. Everyone have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.